And I'm reading book after book in which the cops are corrupt, the government is not, family turns out to be treacherous, parents. The new John Sanford is fabulous, Naked Prey, really love it. Small town turns out to be far more dangerous than Minneapolis.
Right.
Cop who turns out to be bent, parents against, you know, children, parents are the monsters.
Yep.
All that, you know, wives betraying husbands and vice versa. And
Right.
in other words, there's no security. Everything we thought we could count on,
Yeah.
we can't.
Right.
And Jim reminded me, it's a long way to get to all this, that in the 1950s, especially in science fiction, there was a whole wave of books like that.
Yep.
And it was a reaction to, you know, the bomb,
Oh,
the
yeah.
fear of that, to McCarthyism.
Yep. Yep.
And the Cold War and
Yep.
all, and he gave me some titles, and I'm unfortunately just going
Well,
totally blank.
I mean, the most infamous, and certainly this is the one that I was.
You'll probably know it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was writing this book, there's, I wanted to do Gothic. I also wanted to sort of pay, you know, to write a bit of an homage to sort of what I consider true art to me is art that is, on one level, so entertaining that a lot of times people don't even see what's going on underneath.
Ah, well, it's like the spoonful of sugar gets the medicine down to
If
some
it doesn't
degree.
have the, no, it should be entertaining. It's all about storytelling first. And then if there's underneath, to be great though, underneath there has to be more going on. There has to be. And so I was looking at, this is another long way around the barn, but I looked at, to me there was no greater film, for example, in the 1990s, outside of Schindler's List, there was no greater film than The Crying Game. And but nobody sees it because it was so vastly entertaining, and because it had such a shock in the middle of it with the, you know, he's a she, she's a he, and that nobody could see it. And that if you look back and you were to study that film, or even just see it a second time, you would see a film that is just so ridiculously deep in terms of questions about identity in every way, shape, and form. Sexual identity, national identity. Are you defined by what you do? Are you defined by where you come from? Are you defined by the color of your skin? So I said, wow, you know, this is this kind of book I want to write. You know, I want to write something like that, and also to pay homage to. If you look back, you want to see a film that tells you what life was like in the 1950s in America. You don't watch The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. You don't watch Gentleman's Agreement. Both very social films of their time that don't hold up. You watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers. You watch The Manchurian Candidate, because they worked on mythological lines as well. And so I don't think it's a mistake, for example, in Shutter Island, when in a flashback he remembers his wife talking about Russians and saying, why do they hate us? And I don't think that's, I didn't put that line in idly, if you will. And I saw a lot of similarities between 1954 and 2003. I saw the same sense of siege, the same sense of fear, all very valid. I mean, in 1953, 1954, we were aware that Russians had nukes pointed at us, that they had subs off our coast, and that the world could blow up at any second.
Bomb shelters everywhere, and children.
And that's where a McCarthy comes from. And my whole feeling is that the moment you begin to watch what you say in this country, if we are based on nothing else, we are based on that very basic principle. The moment you are forced to begin to watch what you say, you will begin to watch what you think. And from that point on, your soul is on the next boat out. And if there's one thing in this, I don't care how you feel, either way, I'm totally with you. That's what being American's about. I don't care how you feel about, say, the situation in Iraq or any other political issues, but you have a damn right to say something about it. Every single person, not just if you agree with, I mean, Teddy Roosevelt said that, Teddy Roosevelt has said that if you are not allowed to speak out against the commander-in-chief in this country, then it is treason. And there is no worth to this country. That is Teddy Roosevelt, who said that, a Republican president as a sitting president. And I just felt with Shutter Island that this was, I was writing about a very paranoid time in which it was understandable to be paranoid, in which we very much had enemies who were trying to kill us. But you don't lose the very fabric of what you're fighting for, which is free speech.
Right, and you're also writing about perceptions of reality too. I mean,
Absolutely.
you're dealing with the mentally ill.
But that's the
and
thing.
other
If
things.
you remove the ability to speak, the mind will gradually go with it. If you repress speech, you will repress thought, and the mind cannot handle that. The mind will begin to break down. And so that was the idea of setting it in a mental institution. And then there was finally, all in all, the biggest thing was, just how damn scary would it be to be locked in a mental institution on an island at the height of the Cold War in the middle of a hurricane? That was really at the base engine.
Well, the hurricane did rev it all up. I mean, you could see, you know, that sort of giant storm climax coming.
Here it comes.
You seeded that one in there right from the beginning.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, from the first cloud.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. When you said Gothic, how right you are. You know,
oh,
you
yeah.
can always just
There's a lighthouse. I mean,
Yeah.
if there was a Gothic cliche I missed, I'd like to know about it. Viewers, please phone in.
But you know, but what's fun about it is that even though, you know, cliche, it's all there, it's not all, I mean, I think one of the most wonderful things about writing crime
Yep.
is that, you know, you've got various convention structures, you know, the genre furniture, if you will.
Yeah.
And one of the most wonderful things for those of us devoted to it, or in fact for any reader, is to see what you can do taking that furniture and rearranging the room.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
actually more fun than if you created a whole brand, you know, new line of furniture.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. I think the traditional forms exist for a reason. They exist because they work, and they exist because they're wonderful and they're enticing. And so, you know, we have the crime novel, we have the academic novel, we have the romance novel, we have the science fiction novel. You look at the possible genres. We don't really have an architectural novel because it just doesn't work as a form.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
There's not really the diesel engine novel because it just doesn't work. I'm sure people have tried, but it just didn't. The traditional forms tend to be very exciting, and I think they're great launching pads. You can run from them. You know, you can just, where can I go from this?
Well, they've worked in storytelling, you know, for a long, long time. But it adds, I think it adds this like extra dimension, you know, to a book for people who can see the author, you know, enjoy the author doing that. I mean, you can read even a traditional mystery like a Christie on various levels.
Oh, yeah.
But what's really fun is to find somebody who can go in and take that stuff that, let's say, Christie dealt with,
Right.
and do a modern version of, or do a John Dixon Carr locked room mystery updated.
Right.
You know, find out a different way to accomplish that.
Yeah, spin it. Just give it a little spin.
Yeah.
See what goes on.
Or even authors, I'm finding this, there's thinking that about Sanford, even an author who's riffing himself.
Right. Right.
You know, if you got enough books out there,
Yeah.
you can actually go back and do that with your own stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think you do. I think you gradually do as you go on in your genre. You do begin to sort of, you know, I mean this in a really cheeky kind of let's have fun way, but I've caught myself having postmodern moments when I'm writing. You know, where I'm just sort of I'm riffing a little bit on. You know, 4 books ago, I would have taken this seriously, you know, but here in this scene right here, dear readers, do you get that I'm just giving you a little wink, you know?
Well, you've got the lost room. I mean, you've got, the locked room.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got that aspect in here.
Yeah.
And then you've got really, you know, the kind of classic design for a closed circle classic detective story is to strain, I mean, if you go back to Christie, what is now called, what is it? And then they were none, but was originally called.
Ten
you know,
Millenniums.
you got people stranded on an island.
Yeah.
You know, and so you know, as they're going down, you know, there's got to be somebody on the island. I mean, that's all the people there can be.
Yep.
I've seen variations where everybody's, you know, stranded in a blizzard in a house, and you can look at the virgin snow and know that nobody's gone, nobody's gone. So, and I thought you were having a lot of fun with that too. I mean, you know, there was so much stuff in Shutter Island that came from so many places.
Yeah, yeah. I think so. I think there was I
thought you were really having fun, I think is what it comes down to. And yet, damn you really got me. I think I'm a really good reader, and I thought when I got to the end, I thought, damn, he got me.
Well, I think also that I was having a ton of fun, and then but then underneath, and that's one of the reasons in the acknowledgement in the book, a lot of people have asked me about this, I don't know why, it was a little acknowledgement, but I thank my agent for the Sinatra, right? And because she gave me this album of Sinatra singing these really sad songs, Rodgers and Hart songs about love, and I kept listening to them over and over again because what I wanted was, on one hand, to just have this incredible amount of fun, which I was, but I needed to stay locked into the emotional core of the book, which is the main character is vulnerable to whatever they can do to him on this island because he can't get over the death of his wife.